can you forgive? Very often people are carrying the grudges and unhappiness and anger for the rest of their lives. But actually, it's so beautiful when you can learn how to forgive. And not only forgive, but just like this absolutely inspirational, motivational, and true example, Madeleine Black, who actually not only learned how to carry on with her life, but also how to inspire many more other people, open hearts and open so many more doors because of what happened to her. Madeleine, I must tell you that you are such an inspiration to me, and I'm so delighted to have you on my show. Thank you so much for joining me.
You're welcome, Olga. It's lovely to be here with you.
Thank you so much. And I must tell you, when I received your book, I was so looking forward to read that. And I knew I will need some tissues because I'm quite an emotional person. But you made me cry so many times. I mean, so many times. My first question when I was reading that, my first question was, did you cry when you were writing that? Have you been emotional? What did you do?
Yeah, it was, I guess it was really part of my healing journey, was just to put all the words down on paper, and some of the events only came to me in the writing of the events. So the chapters that I call again and again and again, I never called these other rapes rape. I just thought I'd had bad sex. It was only when I was writing it many, many years later that I realized I had minimized these other events and I had blanked them out, didn't call them rape. And when I was writing it, I thought, you know what? I said no and he said yes, and he just carried on anyway. And these are the chapters that a lot of people contact me about. You know, they'll say, well, that happened to me. I said, what's it, consent? And then it was rape as well.
Yeah.
It was interesting that kind of came to me only when I wrote my book.
I love that. It just shows how very often we suppress something and we forget really well something we don't want to remember, or we find explanations to something what is totally wrong, but we prefer to explain in a certain way.
We minimize things. I think we're really, really good at minimizing things, and we're not supported by society. You know, so many victim blaming messages, rape culture that's around, and we just think, okay, you know, it was just my fault or whatever. I put myself in that position, but no, it never was. If there was no consent, then it definitely is rape.
It is so shocking. And I must say, in nowadays world, when we have access to anything, I mean, YouTube, books and everything, back like 20 years ago, there was no information or very little amount of information about sexuality, about how things should happen in the bedroom and so on. And nowadays, everything is available. Everything is right there. And yet, these stuff is still happening.
Yeah, we have a long way to go, really, and I think it comes with challenging attitudes in society because of the attitudes, not many men will report, and because of the judicial system. You know, I live in Scotland, and it's such a small percentage of all cases that actually make it to trial will end in a prosecution. It's something like 4 or 5%, and to go to court is re-traumatizing. It's really tough. And just of last week, I was asked to be a patron for an organisation called Justice Is Now, and they are about challenging all the rape myths that happen during the judicial process. So I'm really delighted to be helping them with their message, because it is so important that we challenge all of the myths that are around so that we can encourage a better system and more people to report, which hopefully will lead to maybe a reduction.
Exactly. Let's hope so, because it has to be addressed. It really has to be addressed, because these stuff is still happening. And the worst thing is that after that happened, not everybody can heal themselves. Not everybody can seek some help, because just like, as you're saying in the book, you feel shame, you feel scared, you feel like nobody will trust you, nobody will believe you. And just like in your case, there's a lot of self-blame.
It was a shame that kept me quiet for years. You know, I just assumed if people knew what had happened to me, that they wouldn't want to know me, they would look at me differently, they would be disgusted. They saw me how I incorrectly saw myself for years, as worthless, dirty, contaminated, just, you know, a less than person, just not enough. But that was really my trauma speaking to me. That was my shame speaking to me. So yeah, it took me a long time to really break away from that. And I didn't heal by myself. It's a kind of a paradox, because you do internally it is your own journey, but I was facilitated by many, many different helpers. I met many different healers, helpers, therapists along the way, and tried many different types of therapy, not just talking therapy, but body work as well. So yeah, I didn't get to this place overnight. You know, it's been a long process of cleaning up my trauma.
Yes, because even though in the body, the signs will go away. Obviously, they will pass, but not the emotional side.
Yeah.
Right, not the emotional, not the memories. You cannot unsee. You might forget the feeling, like even when a woman gives a birth, she doesn't really pay attention to how painful it was. So the pain might be forgotten, but not the emotional pain. That stays with us forever.
It is absolutely, it's far more what it did to my mind. You know, you can recover from being beaten or stabbed or whatever, but it's what it did to my mind and where it left me, my mindset, and how I looked at myself and how I then looked at the world and how I couldn't trust anything, anyone, everything just suddenly became unsafe to me. My world was really a normal world, and all of a sudden it was just unsafe. I didn't feel safe in the world.
Yeah.
And, you know, the trauma gets trapped in our body on a biological, physiological level, which is why when we're triggered, we feel it very physically. You know, a smell or a sound or a building or a place can bring back a memory, and we feel a response physically because it is literally in our cells, which is why then I had to work it through my body to kind of integrate both my mind and my body.
Yes. Well, actually, when you say this, straight away my memories, I refer to in your book, you actually speak how you are doing this play role, right? Mm-hmm. And when there was experience when you literally start feeling the shaking in your body. Mm-hmm. When I was my voice is shaking now. It's so interesting how it's all connected. But when you were describing that feeling, when actually you just felt all scared and all afraid and all those memories came back, I felt it.
Yeah.
Even though it never happened to me, but
to me, that was my evidence. You know, I couldn't trust my mind because many, many years later, my memories came back when my eldest daughter became 13, so the same age that I was when I was gang raped. And I thought I was going crazy. I thought I had made it up. I worked at Women's Aid for years and Rape Crisis, and I just thought I've absorbed all these women's stories, you know, it's real. But I was caught in denial because I didn't want to believe it. But, you know, listening to my body, I couldn't deny it because there's no way I would respond with shaking or crying. I couldn't do that on purpose. So in some ways it was tough, but it really helped me to go, okay, I have to listen to my body. It's telling me something very strongly.
100%. And I must tell you that I just dropped the book, but I must tell you that usually we feel everything what happens within our minds and within our body. And that's what happens very often with my clients when they come here and we will work on their emotions. When they get released, they would feel pain in one of their parts of the bodies. And this is so fascinating. So what you have done with your body work, it's really amazing as well, because that actually helps you to move on even quicker. Absolutely. And it's remarkable. We have actually a really nice supportive message here from Nikhil. Madeleine, you are the voice to millions. Glad to listen to you. That, by the way, comment is on YouTube. Those people who are watching us right now on Facebook.
Comments.
Yes, and Howard and also Nikhil are saying that the pleasure to connect and saying hello. So it's really good to hear you guys joining us, because the message is not only about girls, because many guys actually see as well.
Yeah, well, we know that women are raped, babies are raped, you know, women in burqas are raped, boys are raped, men are raped. The abuse is not just for women. And also, even if you've never experienced it, we need men on our side. We need the good men on our side, because it's on all of us, you know. Sexual violence in our society is violence against humanity. And we are your mothers. We bring you into this world, you know. We are the feminine energy. We need men on our side to help us.
Exactly. That's so true. And without man and woman, we can't even exist. We can't continue generations. We're going to be extinct. That's so true. That's very true. But you know, Madeleine, I was wondering, do you remember when actually was the first time, if you could share with listeners, because obviously probably not everybody read the book. And if you haven't read the book yet, you definitely should, because I can guarantee whatever happens in your life right now, you will read this book and you'll feel like my life is perfect. I can guarantee that.
But I do stress that it's not about comparison, because I really believe that it's not what happens to us in life that's important, but it's what we do with it. That's what really matters. So I don't like to get caught in comparison, because, you know, it's not about somebody had a worse time or a better time, because it's what you do with it and how you respond to it.
And that is the best part in this book, that actually you are a true example of how to overcome it, how to deal with that. But would you mind just to share with those people who haven't read the book, you know, when was the first times of you when you started addressing that maybe what happened, you know, you should bring out to the world and you should speak out about that and you should give voice to that?
I first shared my story with an organisation called the Forgiveness Project, who are based in London, really through the powers of social media. It was, I know the date exactly, 22nd of September 2014. So about 6 years nearly I've been sharing my story. And Marina, who is our founder, she calls us story healers rather than storytellers. And I have felt the healing power, you know, so many times from sharing my story. And I had written something previously, about 12 pages, for somebody else, and she read what I had written and she said, if we edit it, can we put it on her website? And I said, yeah. She said, you can be anonymous, you don't need to put your photo or your name. And I just thought, I'm tired of being ashamed now. I'm tired of hiding the fact that a crime was committed against me and my body. You know, I held on to all this shame that didn't belong to me. It always belonged to the perpetrators. It wasn't my shame, but I took that on board. Yeah. So I said, no, you can put my photo and my name. That's not to say I wasn't scared. I was terrified. But the moment I pressed it, I shared it on Facebook, my personal page. You know, some of my friends knew that I had been raped, but a lot of them didn't know how violent it was and that it was near fatal. And from the moment I shared it, I've only ever had loving support and kindness, no trolls, nothing. And so many people since shared their story with me. You know, in the first couple of weeks, it was mainly people I knew, but about 2 of my friends shared their story with me for the first time. They'd never told anyone, and one friend was already in her 60s. So that convinced me that there's so much power in sharing our stories. You know, I think if somebody hears a story at the right time in their life, it has the power to transform that person. And I know, you know, it was the courage of somebody else speaking out, or other people before me, that helped me find my voice. And I just really want to pay that forward for other people.
I agree with you. And it's something special when you share something vulnerable, so well hidden deep inside of your soul and your heart. And when you open up and you share, you can bring out nothing else than reciprocity of that. People will share back. They'll feel for you. I haven't heard even one speaker from the stage coming up and saying, right, I had marvelous childhood. My parents were really loving. You know, they were together forever. Now I'm married to a beautiful wife. We have 3 children. They're beautiful, wonderful. I had an amazing life. Let me inspire you. Mm-hmm. It just doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen because, people would not be able to relate, because people do have situations and circumstances in life which actually are painful and it's really hard to overcome. So when you open up about something like that, I can only imagine how much more is coming out from other people.
Yeah, so I get a lot of, obviously, that other survivors share their story, but my story is also about choices. You know, I'm not superhuman. We all have that power inside us to find our strength, our resilience, our courage, because I think when we don't speak out, whatever our trauma is, that we just hold ourselves back from living our biggest, bravest, most courageous life. So we can all find our resilience in there. You know, it's within all of us. The power to heal is there. We just need to find it.
That is so very true. So very true. And thank you so much for being the way you are, for overcoming that, for actually, you know, raising above all of that. But what would you say to those, whether ladies or gentlemen, because as we just said, everybody can be in this situation. Mm-hmm. What would you say the first thing when they're witnessed, whether it is sexual abuse or verbal? Because I don't think that there's only sexual abuse. There's verbal, there's emotional, there's so many types of abuse and violence. What would be your first tip? What would you tell to people if you're in a situation, do that.
Well, I would say it's never too late to find your voice and to go and get help and support. I've been very lucky. I've been interviewed by amazing people, and I was interviewed by Sir Trevor MacDonald for Radio 4. And I went to London and I met him, which was fabulous. But afterwards, my friend got in contact to let me know her mum was listening, and she was 81 at the time, and she told her daughter she had also been raped as a teenager. And that was the first time she spoke about it in 64 years. So if she can go and get help after all those years, anyone can. My friend said, it's just unbelievable the change in her now. She's just lighter and more energized, and she gives her other secrets now that she never used to, speak about as well. So she's discovered more. But she also thinks if she didn't hear me, she would have taken it to the grave. So whenever I speak, I think of her. But I think find someone to share your story with. It doesn't have to be a therapist. It could be a friend. And if you can't find a friend or a therapist, tell yourself your story. Write it down. When we get caught in denial, we just need to stop the denial, because we know it really. We know we're doing it. Whatever we discover in therapy or the feedback we get, none of it ever is a surprise. But yeah, find someone to share your story with.
And that is so true. And I love the fact you're saying that if you don't have friends, you don't have therapists, tell it to yourself.
Yeah.
It's something so powerful. Like even when you do just a simple exercise of coming to the mirror and saying to the mirror, I love you, that can be so powerful. And how little amount of people can actually do that.
Yeah, when I was studying psychotherapy, it was very experiential. So we did a lot of mirror work. So I have done that, and it's not easy. It's really not easy, because we're filled with all this negative chatter that we tell ourselves, and we incorrectly believe. All of our judgments are coming from ourselves. I was worried about sharing my story because I was scared what people would think. So how can I know what people will think? I can't know what people will think, but this is what we tell ourselves, or what I told myself. For years, I thought they wouldn't want to know me, they would look at me completely differently, and they would be disgusted. But actually, as you say, by bearing everything, we are mirrors to each other. I give people then permission to share their most intimate secrets. And actually, as you know, one of the chapters is called Giving It Oxygen. When we give it oxygen, it just releases all of the heavy energy that was inside me, and it shifts. And when it releases and shifts, then there's more of us that can show up, and more of us from before the trauma, and more of us anyway. So yeah, it's amazing what takes place when we find our voice, that shift in the energy.
And that is so true. And I'm really, really happy you're actually bringing up the energy conversation here, because what I learned through working with clients, and also through my life as well, very often we think that event will hold me back only in terms of my probably intimacy, probably love, and relationships. But this is not true.
Mm-hmm.
When you feel dirty, when you feel not loved, when you feel guilty, that affects every aspect of your life.
Yeah.
And then you allow other people to mistreat you at work. You will choose wrong partners. Probably you choose wrong friends, and it just carries on and carries on. You don't look after yourself, because now what's the point? You already don't feel 100%. So now we can neglect your health. Now we can neglect your diet and everything else. So uplifting that and working on that thing what happened to you can actually heal every area of your life.
Yeah, I totally agree, because I went through a phase, as you know, and there's no right or wrong way to respond, but I became very, very promiscuous because I had no self-respect for my body, and also a lot of it was fear-based. If somebody tried it on with me when I was a younger teenager, I just let them do whatever they wanted, because I was scared it would be violence again, it would end in violence. But then I earned myself a name, so then I attracted more boys wanting to be with me. So it was a miserable time, because I wasn't connected. There was no love. It was all lust for them. I wasn't present in any way. And I had to get out of that cycle. Luckily, when I was 17, I met my now husband of 37 years ago, I think a few years ago.
You're
very young. But he really showed me what unconditional love was for me. And then I learned that, well, if this man can love me, which I questioned for years, I would drive him mad. then I must be lovable. My image that I had of myself must be incorrect, because he's still here and he still wants to be with me. Despite me living in London, I met him in Israel and he lived in Scotland. He still wanted to see me. And then I saw that, I could receive love and I could give love back out to him. And over time, I slowly learned to like myself and then really be okay with who I am. I know now that I had to just clean up the trauma, that I didn't need to change anything. I was always enough. But I didn't get to this place overnight. It's been a long process of healing, but something in me just always drove me to clean up the trauma and to be the best version that I ever could of me.
It was so beautiful when you said that I was always enough.
Yeah.
How powerful is that? We have imposter syndrome day in, day out.
I still get that though. Sometimes.
Yes, yeah. And of course, obviously, it's always good to see somebody who is thriving, doing better than us and all the rest of it, so we can learn from them. Mm-hmm. But actually, we are always enough. We are enough for whatever we have to do now. And yes, of course, we need to grow. We need to uplift ourselves. But we already are enough.
Yeah.
And how powerful is that actually that you realized that? Do you think that realization was I am enough after you met your husband or before you met your husband?
Oh, years later. Even after I became a mum, only just in the last 5-10 years, really. I just saw that in all the cleaning up the trauma, the real essence of who I am, the horror, the fire in my belly, whatever you want to call it, my goodness, my gut, they could never touch that. That is never touched by any trauma. That's unchanged. But the trauma just gets multi-layered and it covers it all up. And I saw that I'm not the things that happen to me. I'm not my body. I'm not the events in my life. It shaped my life, but I'm also not those events. So it's a bit of a paradox, really. And yeah, I realized that I had to clean up the trauma, but actually I don't need to change anything about me. I'm really okay as I am. And that's the same for everybody.
And you're amazing the way you are. We love you, and everybody loves you. We have people watching us on Facebook, we have people watching us on YouTube as well, and they wouldn't join if they wouldn't love you. They wouldn't. Right, that they are here because of you, and it's amazing. It's really amazing to actually hear how positive, how upbeat you are about this. But do you think sometimes, and if you don't want to answer this question, it's absolutely fine. I appreciate it. You have all rights, by all means, to say no. But do you have sometimes some thoughts about those moments which are making you feel sad, or do you look at all of them all the time? Kind of, this is what happened to me. Thank you for those experiences, not in a sense of being hugely grateful, but in the sense of because of what happened to me, this is who I am. Or
yeah, well, it might sound very strange, but I would never undo what happened to me now. Yeah. I would never wish it on anybody else, but it taught me so much, and it really woke me up. I would never have taken this huge journey that I've taken, all the personal development. I'd never have met the husband that I met, had the 3 gorgeous girls that I have. I would never have met Sir Trevor McDonald. All the journeys that I've been on, it would never have happened. But I don't want to wish it on anyone. That's not what I'm saying. But I also, for a long time, I had to be very grateful to one of the rapists, because one who wasn't quite as bad as the first one, he stopped his friend from killing me near to the end. And I really I had gratitude for years, which confused my mind. But I think because I was so very nearly killed, I'm now determined I'm going to live my life. I'm going to enjoy my life. But that doesn't mean that I still don't get days where it's dark, especially with Corona. I've had Corona coaster like everybody else, like you. All of my speaking, traveling events cancelled, postponed, nothing. It's all virtual, which is great, but doesn't replace the real thing. And I had a weekend when I was in a really bad place, but I have so much awareness that I could see what I was doing, and I don't stay there for very long, and I can give myself a good talking to and saying, what is this about? Where's it coming from? What are you doing? So I eventually moved out of it. So I am aware because I've done a ton load of work, a lot of therapy.
And it's so powerful. This is exactly what Tanya is saying actually on Facebook. She says, wow, I came on the right moment. Tanya, you did. You definitely did, absolutely. And Tanya, I would like to share with you this amazing book, which it will make you cry. It will definitely make you cry. I mean, get a box of tissues and spend weekend reading that, and it will inspire you so, so much, because it just shows, just like Madeleine shared before, it's not about the comparison, but it is about how did you overcome the challenges and how to stay strong, and how even now, as Madeleine just shared, how to even share gratitude towards somebody who actually was so violent towards you and your body and your soul.
I'd done all these horrific things to my body, but yet he stopped his friend from whatever he was going to do, from killing me. And I was like, how can I be grateful to him? But you know, as you know, also in the book, there was some, because I left my body, I was taken to another dimension, I believe, and I met a protector. And I don't think I would have met this protector, spirit, whatever you want to call, guide, if I had never had this experience, because I think I was so close to being killed, which is why he became obvious to me. So yeah, it's been a very interesting time.
Wow. But you see, I can't remember where exactly I heard that from, but I actually since then strongly believe in that actually when babies coming into the world, the child is choosing particular family, particular circumstances, particular parents in order to experience particular events in their lives, his or hers, in order to give something back to the world. So what do you think about that? I know it's some wishy-washy theory.
No. My mum actually said to me, thank you for choosing to be born into my family.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's something I've known for a long time, or I felt. Yeah, I used to question it for years. Why did this happen to me? What have I done in this life? Maybe in another lifetime I was a horrible person. I was a man. I was a rapist. What have I done? I think with me, it was just the wrong place at the wrong time. But I also think that, well, I like to find a reason for it happening. I like to turn something negative into something positive. And I think now, if I can use my story to inspire others, then that is my journey. That is my purpose, to serve others, because I really just want to speak for those who can't find their voice and to help them find their voice. So that's really why I feel if I can do this, then I really should.
Yeah. Well, and you already do. I mean, it's too late.
Yeah.
You already are doing that. You already inspired so.
You told me this years ago. There's no way I would have believed that I'd even write a book, stand on a stage. So it's very interesting. Actually, yesterday I had a conversation with a woman, Isabel. When my memories came back, I really struggled. And somebody suggested going to speak to a medium. And I thought, wasn't really sure, but she gave me lots of information, lots of details about injuries that they had done to me that I hadn't shared with anyone, and it was really, really accurate. And very near to the end, she said, you know, you're going to write a book one day, and I see you standing on the stage and you're going to speak to thousands. And then I thought, oh, what a load of rubbish. Up until then, you'd been so accurate. And then yesterday I posted on my Instagram it's been a year exactly yesterday that I spoke to 2,000 people at TEDx. And she said, she messaged me and said, be great to meet up again for coffee when all this is over. I said, you told me I would speak to thousands and write a book. And it was like, so that was about 10 years ago she told me that.
Wow.
Quite amazing, isn't it?
It isn't.
I'm goosebumps now thinking of it.
I just said the same thing.
Yeah.
It's quite remarkable. I mean, not many people actually believe in this stuff, but actually I do believe. And I think it's about ability to see and to be connected to the source. And I know some people will now say right now, oh, wishy-washy stuff. Right? It's your choice, guys. But information is out there. Call it.
Yeah, it depends on your word. You can just say that you're right in your flow. If you don't like the word source, it's just working from your true self, without any of that trauma. It's just speaking from a real place, I guess.
Exactly. And that is so, so true. But Madeleine, I wonder, when you were going for the first time onto the stage, if you could share this with those who are watching.
Yeah. So the very first time, it wasn't that long after I had shared my story with the Forgiveness Project. So it was about October 2014, and it was for a Festival of Light. So I knew the person that was organizing it. It was a very kind, compassionate ceremony, and they had a few other speakers there as well. And I didn't really prepare anything, but I sat down and the words just came. And I just thought, I was very nervous before, but I thought, I can do this. It's really okay. The fire alarm went off in the middle. Somebody burnt toast in the kitchen. It was in the chapel at the University of Kiel. So we all went outside. And when I came back, I just carried on. It was at the point I was talking about that I went through a phase of my life of self-destruction, and then the fire alarm goes off. So it was very good timing.
Wow.
And then you asked me questions. But at the end of that, I had a line of people queuing to share their stories with me, about 10 people. And then people messaged me afterwards. And so far, I used to call myself an accidental speaker because I never intended to be a speaker. Every time I speak, somebody in the audience invites me to come somewhere else, or now people just, will refer me. And I've never looked for speaking events. They have always come to me. So I am just now in the place where I trust life. I trust that this is my path and this is where the direction that I'm meant to be going in.
But you know what I think also, Madeleine, is happening? I think because you're in the flow and because you're open and you're sharing from your soul, obviously in that case, everything gets manifested and everything gets attracted. This is what people actually forget, because when you don't heal yourself because of one or another reason, whatever event you had in your life, you get blocked. And once you get blocked, the information, the opportunities, it just doesn't come. You can't even see them because it's like a horse. Your vision is blocked. You can't see anything. You are blindfolded. But when you heal yourself, when you release all that anger, all that pain, these when things go.
And I can also speak from a place where there's no drama, there's no trauma. I can just say it for what it was, which took a long time, because every time I went back to any of the pictures of the events, I was just triggered, and it was obviously the energy. So I worked it and worked it and worked it till the sting had left the energy. So now it was like watching a movie now, and it does not impact on me in any way. So you can get to a place where you can heal, which is also what I want people to know, that you can have a great life. I do believe there's something called post-traumatic growth. You can grow through what you go through. So you can really get to a place where actually we find our strength in the most difficult of times. I would never have known there was such light if I'd never known such darkness. It's yin and yang. It's the whole. It's everything. But it's learning to really accept both. There is all this bad stuff or dark stuff, and there's all this light and great stuff that happens as well.
Yeah, that is so true. And it should be a balance. Just like you said, yin and yang, balance should be in everything. You can really appreciate sunshine if you haven't had a couple of rainy days. Whoa, just recently.
We'd never have rainbows, would we? Never.
Exactly, that's very true. We have actually quite interesting comment from Tanya here on Facebook. She says, "Oh my God," in capital letters. "I lived something so similar on a time of my life that I was on the rampage then, but life happened and I came out of my purpose up until now." There we go. And this is what happens when you just need to go with the flow and release what happened to you. And again, to realize that what happened to you is not something that you can change.
No. And I think when we get caught in denial, we don't want to believe it. It's because I really struggled with accepting it. And it's interesting, when I went back to therapy, when all the memories returned, it wasn't, after a while, it wasn't the pictures and the nightmares and the triggers that were causing me damage. It was my refusal to accept, my denial. I saw I could really drive myself crazy if I'm not careful, because I just refused to believe it. I thought it was rubbish. I'd made it up. I'd absorbed women's stories from all different places I'd worked. My therapist would say, "Why would you make that up?" And I thought, well, he does have a good point. If I'm going to make anything up, but surely it would be a little bit nicer. But I just refused. And then eventually I had to get to a place where I thought, you know what, I'm still alive. They didn't kill me. It's not happening anymore. These are just dreams and pictures and memories. They can't impact on me. But because it is in ourselves, it feels so real. Every session I went back to being that 13-year-old girl, terrified, vulnerable, naive, whatever, and it felt so real. But I had to really go into it to really work it. All the years of avoidance did not help it. I wore a mask and I pretended life was great. I, made out that my job was I was the perfect mother, the perfect wife. I had the best home. Yeah. But I was really like a swan. I was graceful and in control up above, but underneath my feet were just paddling like crazy. So we give off this air that we're okay, and we wear a mask, but I was only fooling myself really. And I just got to a point where I thought, I'm not my body, all the things that they did to me. They didn't kill me, I'm alive. And then at that point I thought, I've got to clean this up once and for all. If not, it's always going to hang over my head, and I didn't want it to impact on my life till my last breath. So I had to find a place where I accepted it, and it's much easier. Much easier than being caught with my own mind and denying it.
And it's so powerful, because what you're describing is what majority of people are still living in. They're still trying to fit.
The push and the pull constantly in my mind. That was the hard work.
Exactly, yeah, because you naturally want to be you, and then you get pulled back by, no, I have to wear a mask, I have to be somebody, I've got to be perfect mom, I've got to be perfect employee, I have to be perfect partner, perfect friend, and perfect daughter, and the list goes on and on and on and on, but never perfect yourself.
Yeah, but the very thing we don't want to do is the thing that saved me. By stepping into the most painful moments of my life and understanding them, observing them, learning to be okay, accepting them, forgiving them, that is what healed me. The work didn't happen where I was feeling comfortable. I grew in the discomfort of learning to handle the things that I couldn't control. Learning just to accept, to be able to hold that. That's really where the growth came, not from, hanging out in my comfort zone. That I would never going to grow there. I had to really step into my darkest places in order to be okay.
100%, yes. And I must say that just like before the live show, as we went live, I shared with you that one of my favorite pages in your book is actually the last page, which says, sharing her story opened doors for Madeleine in ways she never imagined, and the invitation started to pour in.
Yeah.
This is just so special. I mean, who would ever imagine, would you think at that age of 13 that you would write these words in...
No chance.
Exactly.
No chance. And I worked up until last year as a psychotherapist. I've been working 12, 14 years as a psychotherapist. And last year I was asked to speak more and more. So I thought, well, maybe I should put my energy into speaking. I can't do both. I have to do one or the other. And I said to myself that I need a sign. I like signs. And this was December 2018. And I thought, if I'm meant to be a speaker, then I would love to work internationally. That had never happened before. And I thought, well, that's not really going to happen. But I woke up on January the 1st with an invitation to Johannesburg. And then on January the 5th, I woke up with an invitation to speak for UNICEF in the Maldives. And I thought, okay, well, this is a good sign. I think this is where I'm meant to be. So I went with it. So it was great. So the working for UNICEF was my first paid international gig. So that was good.
Wow. I mean, how many more signs would you like to have? You already had.
It was a good one. So I spoke for PSA Johannesburg, which was amazing. It was really good.
This is remarkable. But this is exactly proving the point once more. What happened to you before, that could be used as a material to inspire, a material to educate, a material to motivate, whichever shape or form you want to use it, but don't lose it. It's very easy to lose it at the depth of your mindset, of your conscious, because it goes so deep into your subconscious that you consciously can't even bring it out. You need to go really deep into your subconscious to get it all out, because you hide it, and you hide it so well. And actually, I can refer to that because, or relate to that, should I say, because I remember when I started my speaking journey, somebody asked me, Olga, what was your most, inspirational journey? And I thought, I think it was the experience when I came to UK, I didn't speak English, I had no money. Yeah, that was the most inspiring journey. And I thought, that's not even inspiring. It just didn't feel inspiring. And then I had a conversation with my friend that was very excited. I was asked these questions with this little interview. And my friend said, are you mad? That's not the most inspiring story of yours. I was like, what do you mean? He said, no. Have you forgotten about your ex who used the financial and you were in debt minus 40,000? I was like, I forgot about that. And it's remarkable how, just as you were saying in the book, you were remembering about some stuff all later on because it had a purpose. You had a reason to remember that because you're writing a book. And it's so remarkable how you can forget about things. You really do your best to forget about them because you
And
don't.
I think we also, as speakers, I learned this quite early on, that I've lived with my story for a long time, but I have to remember that my audience is only hearing it for the first time.
Yeah.
So when I went for my interview for my TEDx last year, they said that I was very slick at telling my story, that I got so used to telling it that it didn't come from deep within like you're talking about. And it really surprised me. But so they said, if you're willing to work with our coach, I said, of course, then we'd obviously like to have you as a speaker. And she took me over 10 weeks. I would speak to her every week or meet with her just to connect again, because I just got so used to telling it. It was so like, yeah, so this happened, that happened. It doesn't affect me anymore. But she said, you have to speak as if you're telling it for the first time, and that your audience, especially the 2,000 people there, most of them have never heard your story before. So that really was a huge journey for me, and to really understand that in a better way, that just because I'm okay with it, it's hard for people to hear it as well.
It is, absolutely. But then what tips do you still use in order to reconnect that? Because it's almost like reliving the story every time in that game, like literally every time.
It's hard because, I'm so used to telling it that it's almost like a script, that I almost know the words that are going to come up. And most of the times, every time I speak, I don't have many talks. It's always roughly the same one, which is my story. So I'm always looking at ways now to develop it and to see what my audience needs from it. But I think just to be you, just when I did the TEDx and I walked out onto the stage, I was terrified because I'd never spoken to such a huge audience. I think the biggest audience maybe was 400 or 300. So there's a lot of people, but what I actually learned is you can't see 2,000 people at one time. So it's actually easier. 20 people is much harder because I can see all their eyes. But as I walked out and I stood on that red dot and I just took a few seconds to ground myself, I just thought, it's not about me speaking right now. It's about who is listening. And that is what I think every time I speak. It's not, I am just now a vehicle. I'm just now the vessel. I'm just a messenger. And that grounds me every time.
Oh gosh, I really wish I could give you a color right now, because I so agree with you. You're saying I'm a vehicle. I'm there to speak and pass on the message. I look at speakers, at ourselves as the speakers, the gadget, the machine, the thing which you put on a table and you connect to the source, radio, player, wherever, and it plays whatever you transfer into the speaker. And I think that's exactly who we are. And people script their speeches and they learn word by word, and when they read the presentations, I'm thinking, no. You are disconnected. You got to connect to yourself in order to pass whatever your audience needs to hear. But you can't do it if you haven't healed yourself, if you haven't gone through your journey of get rid of imposter syndrome, of your traumas, of your events in your life which is still holding you back. So
I do always feel a bit nervous, even though I've done it quite a few times. But I think that's okay. I think if you didn't care, then you wouldn't feel nervous. And I think it's good to get those nerves. So the last time I spoke was the very first time I'd ever been a closing keynote. I was in Namibia and I closed the Global Speakers Summit. So I had to wait for 2 days before I could speak. And everybody, I've done mine. And then they're all off having beers and relaxing. And I had to wait to the last minute. For a start, I realized you have to be very careful. You don't get your lunch down your clothes. Have spare clothes with you, which I didn't. But to wait to the last one was a brilliant privilege, but it was very nerve-wracking. But I used that energy to transform into connecting. You can't not be connected if you are nervous. And I think the nerves only come because I want to give the best job that I can do, or give the best message that I can. So, it's still good to have nerves. It's okay. I think if it gets to the place where you're not nervous at all, then maybe that's a bit ego coming through.
Yeah, I agree. Or you're not connected even to yourself. Yeah. But I'm sure your story today will inspire so many people and will definitely help so many people to open up, to verbalize whatever was like hiding deep inside of their heart and their soul for years, maybe even decades. Like the lady was 64 years she was hiding
Yep.
Yeah, so hopefully some people will actually be inspired today to share their stories. And what would you say them as, for example, 3 tips, if you could share what they could do in order to, be connected, how to connect, how to share their story, but not to hold on to their story like an addiction.
So be very careful who you share your story with. Right. Make sure it's someone that you trust. Really be very careful. Don't just give your story away to anyone else. You need to be supported, because I think to be listened to be heard, but to be believed, there's nothing more powerful than that. Start to be a really good witness in your life. Be a really good detective. Pay attention to where you leave or where you space out, or look at your habits and your behaviors. So often they come as such an automatic response to trauma or just habits and patterns that we just get caught. So see if you can start to stop and think, I'm doing that thing again. I really need to stop doing that. And then eventually you will get the signal before you go into whatever a bad, I don't like to call it bad, unhealthy habits that you've developed. And just really learn to stop judging yourself. It's okay to get caught in denial. It's okay to feel frustrated. It's okay to get angry. What's not okay is our judgment. When we give ourselves a hard time, I did it for years. Oh, you're so stupid. How did you do this? And you're so stupid. That was my mantra, that I was just stupid because it was my fault. It was never my fault. It was never my fault. 100% of all rapes are caused by rapists, nothing else. So watch what you say to yourself. Can you bring more kindness and compassion to your thoughts, to your heart? Learn to just be okay with yourself. And just, if we could all get out of the way of ourselves, we would just get on so much better. We really are our own worst enemy at times.
You know what, Madeleine, your words are like music to my ears right now. Honestly, I love what you're saying here. The way how we talk to ourselves, how we treat ourselves, respect or disrespect ourselves, that's exactly what's going to show up in the mirror of other people.
Yeah.
Yes, rape is a very drastic thing. It's not like they were mirroring your behavior, but the attitudes afterwards, if you felt before, like you said in the beginning, you felt not yourself, you felt dirty, you didn't feel clean. And then you start mistreating yourself, and the same people will actually show to you. So your self-talk, the way how you treat yourself, is so crucially important. I love that. I absolutely love that. And actually, Maria here, she is absolutely speechless. She's an absolutely amazing interview. Have no words. Maria, and me too, honestly. Madeleine, I'm so happy you came today, you shared your inspirational story. I'm so grateful and happy that you actually have written this book, which I think everybody should, I'll share the link so people can find it. Everybody should read and learn how to overcome challenges, learn how to be strong, how to win in life, how to just really be that person who not only can overcome their own challenges, but inspire so many more people, open so many hearts and so many souls.
That's really my intention, to open minds and open hearts, so that we know that we all have the tools that we need. And I always say my book is not a self-help guide. This was the way that I did it, and I'm not a forgiveness preacher. I'm not saying that the only way to healing is through forgiveness, but that was how I did it. And I know I'm also very privileged that I was able to afford to go to lots of therapies that maybe other people, it would be out of their range. So, but there's always a way. I also use tons of sport to connect back into my body. You can just walk, you can get apps, you can get good friends, you can read books. There's so many ways to the path of healing, and there will be your own individual, unique path as well.
That is so true. Well, darling, I could speak to you for days and days and days. And what a surprise today, we were wearing both reds.
Oh, how great is that? Good energy.
It feels we're on the same, level of understanding.
Yeah. I had a feeling as well. I thought, I bet she's in red.
But I love it. And could you please remind us, where exactly are you based right now?
am a Londoner, but I live in Glasgow. I'm up in Scotland.
Right, so right now in Scotland. And what is the weather there right now? Because here it's a bit sunny, yeah.
It's very humid. I went for a walk this morning. It was very kind of humid, so it feels like we're going to have a big storm very soon. You know, it's got that kind of heaviness in the air, but that's okay. We need the rain as well. I've been planting at the weekend, so it's fine.
Well, exactly. They need some water.
Yeah.
They need to heal. They need to heal and let the rain to actually come and heal them. Well, Madeleine, I'm so happy for you joining this show today and you coming here with your inspiration, with your words of wisdom and everything what you said today. It was literally just music to my ears. I feel great having you today. And I'm so grateful for everybody who was watching us, whether on Facebook or YouTube. Thank you for your participation, for your amazing supportive messages. And people said hello to each other already.
Club going on there.
Yeah, we have some regulars as well. So it was really great to see everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in, and please share this with other people. There's so many people who need to hear this message. Not always I ask for that because, you know, I'm not here to preach my shows, but this message definitely needs to be heard, that people need to speak up. And let's help Madeleine with her mission to actually inspire so many people to speak up, to share their stories, to not hide, but actually show up and yeah, be themselves. What can be better than be yourself?
Yeah. Well, I really do believe that none of us are broken beyond repair.
Oh, well, and as a result, that's why your book is actually called Unbroken.
That's it.
Because nobody is. So, dear listener, dear watcher who's watching us today, you're not broken. You're already in a whole piece. You already are good. You're good to go. You're good to go and win and perform and do all the rest of it. Feel inspired by Madeleine, and darling, I'll look forward to see you today at
in Scotland.
I'll see you in Scotland today. Amazing is that? But thank you so much once more.
Pleasure.
Nice day.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.